So again, what is the definition of gentrification?
Well, like I was saying, is you have the landed classes or the gentry, and this is turning what was the people's land and property over to the gentry or the rich,
Okay.
and giving it to them. So the poor people lose out. Every time that some developer comes into a poor neighborhood and buys a property and really fixes up enough of those properties, the city raises the taxes, and the people that were there already can't afford to stay. They can't afford the taxes. So some of these areas you're paying maybe $400 or $500 a year for taxes. Then the gentrification takes place, and now you're paying $2,000, $2,500 a year for the same property.
Hey everyone, my name is Harry Kosrianto from the Interfaith Study and Community Development Association in associate with Philadelphia Roundtable. So we're going to have a nice community discussion, community meeting. So they call it gentrification. So I have no idea what it is. So we're gonna meet some people. We're gonna coming in and see what's going on. Okay, so let's see.
The Hilton girl.
Can I ask a question? This is like, is this about property and stuff like that? I want to ask a serious question.
No, I want to explain that. This is what it is. Yeah. I'm answering the question.
And let me also add this, because Brother Anthony will be doing classes for those who are interested, so you can really get more in depth. Because we know that some of the things you may be hearing are new, and we understand that. We just want to give you an overview of some other options. Now you're going to hear different things. There's different strategies, okay? But we'll offer you whatever works for you, because people have done different things. So Brother Anthony is sharing with you some of what he and others have done and are doing. And there will be future sessions coming up where you will really be able to examine, follow up on the research, because what's being said very clearly is, don't listen to what anyone is saying. You will get information that will allow you to do the proper research. And then you determine how you want to proceed. So we're going to wrap up with Brother Anthony in a few moments, allow you to ask the 2 questions that you have, and then we're going to go on with some other presentations.
We still have some introductions.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Now I want to close with this. Property is not land and it's not a house. Property is your papers, promissory notes, bonds, bills of exchange, and other personal property, earrings, jewelry, stuff like that. That's property. Land is not property, and house that goes on the land is not property. Houses come and go, but land is forever because it belongs to the Lord. So it's not really about property, but it's identifying the land and who owns the land. And any property can be personal property, like your jewelry and stuff like that, your furniture, equipment, supplies, materials, all different in the county. So what I'm talking about is going back to your family, from God to Adam, Abraham, all the way to you, the living, and then claiming everything. But if you don't claim it under your free heir's name, then it becomes state property. And if you own it and die and nobody claims it and put it in trust, then it belongs to the state. And that's why they got billions and billions of dollars worth of unclaimed property. And once you claim your name and put it in trust for your family, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, going back to your grandmom's property, great-grandmom's property, and great-great-great-grandmom's property, all the way back to God, now you have placed a claim. And if there's 50 names, and I'm going to use Brown as an example, the living Brown can put forth his claim as the trustee executor of all the estates and all the property that's being held in unclaimed property, waiting for someone to claim it, an heir to step up. Like Paris Hilton, if she would have waived her rights, say, I ain't worrying about that. The Hilton Empire would have been, what, state unclaimed property and the law of escheat. So these are some of the things that we're focusing on. And we found out, like electricity is in every home, a trust has to be put in every home. So I'm doing trust, but it's wearing me down so much because if I did 20 a week, 100 a week, lawyers charge $4,800 to do a trust, but they're going to put it in that state property there, that all caps there. That's on the birth certificate, social security card, driver's license, deeds and titles, court records, electric bill, gas bill, tax bill. So if you're not that, then the bill is not what? But you have note when you're living, the money and the cash, and I'm going to close with this. I haven't read anything on any alleged promise, Federal Reserve note that says cash, and I haven't read anything that says money. But your private trust notes can be secured by money, cash, coins, because the Constitution says the state can only allow gold and silver coin as a tender of payment of debt. So now when they ask you for property, right, your promissory note, I promise to pay the bank, electric company, gas company, water company, city, because they all fictions, in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, get it sealed, send it to them, they can't refuse it, the debt is paid. I'm claiming my living heirs right to this land under Almighty God, and they can't dispute with that. And then we do religious deeds, and we don't put our names on the deed in all caps because it's not us. So somebody committed a massive fraud downtown with these deeds and titles that they're using. So when we do a religious deed, we're the trustee, and who owns the earth? The Lord, Almighty God, and we His trustee. And nobody can dispute with that, and nobody can put you off that. And it will be a great fight if they came against God and His chosen ones, His trustees, which is you. I'll make sure y'all get my information. Thank you for listening. Okay.
I just have one question. This person, if I'm related to her, and she has a house that those are living there for a certain amount of years, but we have different last names.
Okay.
How do I prove that that's my heir to get that property?
Listen to this. In the Bible, in the Jewish book, the Torah, and the Muslim book, the Quran, in the Bible, nobody has a last name. It's not Adam Smith. It's not Eve Brown. It's not Abraham Wade. It's not Ezekiel Jones. It's not Jesus, United States. It's one name. So when you claim that last name, one name, you can link it to what? Your family. And you do a family claim. Family claim. Nobody has, Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan own their names. Nobody has claimed the Brown name, but I think one family had. It used to be a race to the courthouse. Y'all remember that term? First one that what? Files, put the state on notice that you now the living, and that name in all caps on the birth certificate, social security card, driver's license was put there either a mistake or fraud. There's no statute of limitation when told for fraud. And somebody, when your mother and father and grandparents came in to record that name, somebody took the living and switched it to a corporation person name. We're not persons. We're man. Because that's what God calls us. But if we call ourselves anything that God didn't call us, then we're not with God. Because God has no respect to persons. God is not the God of the dead, but the living. Those names are dead.
Are you talking about a relatively good dad
Right.
Yeah, then what you can do is go for probate. And basically what a lot of people don't know is probate, you can just declare that this person is your brother. Unless it's going to come up for some kind of dispute, unless somebody else disputes it. All right? But you're also bound by the fact that what you say has to be true. So I've done, and I'm a realtor, so I've done probate for people. So let's say it's you and 4 sisters. So I'm gonna give an example. Your aunt passes away with no children, right? Her parents have passed away. All the brothers and sisters, which would be your mother and uncles and all that, are gone. So now there's only the children of one sister. So let's say it's you and your sister and your brother's locked up. Now this was a real situation I came across. You don't want to tell the city of Philadelphia you got a brother that's locked up. Just you make that personal choice. When you file for probate, you say these are the heirs. But you're also certifying that you're telling the truth. Okay, the right thing to do is say, the heirs are me, my sister, and my brother who's locked up. And then each you sign that you're the heirs of this particular
Okay, now
person.
let me ask you this, say for instance, I don't know all my heirs.
But you don't know the heirs of the person who
I don't
passed
know
away.
all the heirs,
Right.
but I know
That you are.
I know I'm an heir,
Right.
but I have a different last name than the other
You
heir.
can still go to probate. Nobody's gonna dispute
You
it.
got a card?
Yeah, nobody, if there's nobody to dispute it. The only problem you have in probate is when somebody comes forward and says, yeah, that's right, yeah, I'm her niece, you know, and she's not the niece, I don't know her dad, you know.
Right. And
Yeah.
women get married, so their names are changing all the time.
Because I'm gonna give it for instance, my children's name, I have one daughter, her name is Elizabeth McNeil. My son's name is Eudora Muhammad. My name is Lasha Harris. See how all three got names? I mean, you wouldn't know that we related unless you took our blood. But each person has different last names. Now, if I was to die, how do they know that that's my son or that's my daughter?
Yeah, they don't.
I mean, I just
They
say, you know,
want them
to say
that they are.
that is
Yeah.
a fact.
So
You know,
far,
but
so
I
far.
have 2 heirs, one owns 10 properties, and I'm the last of their heir. And my grandmother owns 7 properties. So that's their heir, but the properties are being dilapidated because nobody wanna pick up the property.
Yeah,
They don't wanna pay the bills.
The money.
I don't know
to
what's
pay
going
for
on, but I'm
probate.
gonna call her and
Yeah.
ask her, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's
So
what it
far-
is.
Yeah, that would be your only
So far,
barrier,
since I've been
yeah, to
studying-
raise that money to
So
file.
far since I've been studying, you don't want to go to probate.
But you have to in the city of Philadelphia.
No, you don't.
in
If
order
you
to
put
get
your, if you
title.
put your property in a trust, you don't have to go to court at all. Whoever you leave your property to.
Okay, but
that's who
her
it
property
is.
is not left to anybody.
I know,
She just
I know,
passed.
I know, but if you open up a trust, and put them properties underneath your trust, then you can leave the properties to whoever you want, because you're the trustee.
I got you.
You're the boss, so you get to leave your properties to whoever you want, and don't take my word for it.
Okay, but I did what you're saying, but before I can put it in a trust, I got to get the property
Yeah,
first.
the title.
See, it got to go through probate before I can put it in a trust.
No.
No, you don't?
Look up, Google the benefits of having a trust. A trust supersedes, it don't have to go. Probate means there's no heir. There's no will or no trust. If it's in trust, and not just a trust where the name, the state property in all caps, that's on that deed that you're looking at,
Right.
that property just sitting there.
Okay, so are you saying this, let me make sure I'm still on this. I go open up a trust, and trust all their property in my name, that's all mine.
No, it's not all yours.
Okay, so I'm
No.
thinking it wrong.
If we link that trust, a religious trust, from God, who owns the earth?
God,
And the scriptures say, will a man rob God? So if I put it in any other name,
so I say put it in God we trust?
you could. But now, man, male and female, was left on the earth to be in the image in like the Genesis 1:26-31 and have dominion. So now, once you link to be an heir, who's the mother of the living according to the Bible? Eve. The scriptures say Eve shall be the mother of the living. Why would they say that? Because God knew, or the writers knew, that these corporations was coming to take your name that looks like your name, sounds like your name, but it's not your name Because your first grade teacher told you don't write your name in all caps. She knew something. The kindergarten teacher was programmed, because if I put the name in all caps and that's a company, then it's not who?
It's not me.
Then if it's not you and you come into my courtroom under that name, you come and talking about they violated your constitutional rights under that name, where's your paperwork that says you even exist? During slavery, you better had your freedom papers. If that name is state, if that name will be state property, because if nobody claimed that name and made it religious exempt property, because the name is property. A name is not land and it's not a house, it's property. A house is not property. Land is not property, it's land. Like water is not juice and juice is not a Pepsi. It's that simple. So now you got to sit down with a religious trust advisor. A lawyer can't do it because he's not free from the state. He's licensed by who? The state. So he's an agent.
Okay, so you say like my name.
Right. You got to correct it.
I gotta go and change it.
No, you got to correct it.
Make sure my name is written correctly.
And correctly mean that if you have it or that's all caps would be incorrect. That's the.
Okay, so my name is spelled L-A capital S-H-A. So is that wrong?
Now, it's got to be a name that can be linked to family. Because when the children of Israel was given land by Almighty God, letting us know how He operates, it wasn't given under the nation of Israel. It wasn't given under the state of Israel. It was given under each individual family. So now we have to link ourselves back to God, to Adam and Eve, to Abraham, to ancient Nu, because he looked like me and you, the first civilization on earth that had hot and cold running water, everything that we enjoyed. So now once you link yourself there, like Paris Hilton, she's known only to be a what? Heir to what? The Hilton what? Empire. And if she says no, or identifies herself as being not alive, then the state can inherit her property under the law of SG. So it's some things that we need to take time and learn, because my first question when I learned this was, if the name on the birth certificate, Social Security card, and driver's license is not me, then where are we as a people? And this is so serious. It hurts inside because they know this. They said, when we free them, we're not dealing with them. Damn what Abraham Lincoln said. We're not dealing with them. So somebody said, well, we got to deal with them. Then somebody said, well, we'll deal with them as a company. And whatever they put in the company, it'll belong to us anyway, because they say they are the state. It's no color thing.
It's like incorporated slavery.
So once we wake up and we show that we with God, that's our protection. We're taught that the Lord is my shield and my what? Right, salvation. But once I do this, you can't do it for yourself. You got to do it for your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. Now you really fighting. Now we got something to fight for. When you look in the eyes of them little babies, and the grandchildren, and your great-great-grandchildren that you might never see, now we got something to fight for. We're leaving something for this little baby to be free and to never, ever be extorted as a corporation and deprived the right to be living. And it's once we learn it, right, you see, as they put electricity in every home, a religious trust got to be in every home. Not just a trust, but a religious family trust, making you an heir because you inherited that name from your mother and father, from their grandparents, all the way to the first one who ever used it, linking all the way now to God. One name. You can use two names, but you got to put a comma behind every name. Your first name, comma. The second name you use, they call the last name, comma. Then you can link back 1,000 names. Read the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. It goes into the bloodline of Christ, it says. And it starts from Adam. it goes into all the names. So when we link back to that, now we the living. And we identify ourselves as that. Because if Paris Hilton don't show that she's the heir to the Hilton, what did you say, sister? Enterprise or empire. She loses her right. She abandons, or as they say,
So she's the only living person for the Hilton.
until she has some children. Or somebody come up and say, this brother come up and say, your father was my father. Hey, sister. You know, they did that, didn't they? People came up and say, one of the presidents was my father. Him and my mother.
George Washington. Thomas Jefferson.
Because Ed says from two
So those black
came many.
Monticello came.
Thank you.
Yes, have anybody ever been up there?
Around with the
Nice.
slaves.
Is there anyone that needs paper to take notes?
Yeah, I'd like some
Please
paper. I don't need it
pass
right
it
now.
over. And, okay, we're gonna take one more question from Brother Anthony, then we're gonna move on to some more information. And again, remember that everything that we do has a formula, has a format. Everything that you do, whether you realize it or not. And so it's in our best interest to at least become more aware of what some of this stuff is that we're actually operating in. If you're not aware of it, you only become a pawn of it or a victim of it. So regardless to, you're hearing different things, the whole idea is to become more aware, more conscious, utilize information as if it's you, but at least you'll have information. These are weapons. These are weapons that you can utilize to help resolve some issues. We're talking about gentrification. One of the things that goes with gentrification is understanding the language of gentrification. Understanding very key components. Now, one thing that we've talked about today is corporation, or those things linked to corporation. When you begin to study law, or if not law, just words, etymology, things in reference to that, you begin to break down what some of this means. You're talking about death, corpse, corpus. These things are related to dead things. And again, don't go by what I'm saying. This is their language. So just look it up and see the connection. So if you're operating in death, 9 times out of 10, you'll have a bad result. But if you understand how to maneuver, that gives you the capability to walk through the shadow of death. Okay? So please note, this is not about religion. We don't do that. This is about understanding how things operate. For real. This is what we're going through. This is what's happening out here. It's structured that way. You do whatever you want to do with it, but at least understand how it's structured. When you walk into a court of law, you're walking into a Masonic den. Signs and symbols that you probably will never be familiar with. Some of them will be, and some of them you won't be. So you need to know what it is that you're dealing with, what it is that we're dealing with. So in order to break this thing down, we have to do it from different angles, from different directions, from different kinds of ways to do it. It is our intention at some point in the near future to file a lawsuit against the state of Philadelphia. Absolutely.
You know what?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna tell you, I just read the article about the schools that are being sold.
Yes. Yes.
The real estate entities.
Yes.
And they're taking William Penn.
Yes.
Temple got that.
Yes.
Temple got that already. That was a big review.
Right.
There should have been some lawsuits already filed.
Well,
How they selling them?
How they're selling it under, not only are they,
$1 million.
it's a community asset
Right.
that all of us should have access to.
But here's the key
As
thing.
neighbors,
Here's the key
community
thing.
members.
Are we organized? Right. That's key. Organized, organized, organized. If we're not organized,
They're doing whatever they want.
we can't do what we're talking about, and they know that. That's why we're doing these sessions, so that we can better understand what's going on and become better organized. What we're talking about is going on all over the country. So we're linking with Detroit, Chicago, DC, New York, and so forth, to ultimately come together on a national level. But first we're doing it in individual cities and individual communities, but of melanated people. That's our focal point. We don't play games with this. We're not trying to save everybody else, okay? So let me put that on the table now. If somebody has a problem with that, I don't know what to tell you. But for real, that is our intention. So what we're saying is, we have rights, inalienable rights. This is why, as we talk about civil rights, you will hear us talk more about human rights. Because at some point, we have to raise these issues in a higher court. Absolutely. So with that said, especially for sisters, for those who wish to go with us in March, we're taking a delegation to the UN. It's Women's History Month every year at the UN in March. But this coming year is very significant because it marks the 25th year of a major conference that took place in Beijing, China. It was a UN conference for women 25 years ago. Okay, they're doing a celebration in the United States next year. So we plan to be there with our own delegation. This will be historic because on the grassroots level, we're not there. The closest you get to representation for women is the National Council of Negro Women. That's our closest connection. So this will be historic for us to go into the UN. And we will do that in the spirit of Queen Mother Moore, who was in the UN in the 1950s, talking about reparations. In the 1950s. Okay? So we're connecting gentrification to genocide. It is. But to say it is one thing. To provide the documentation and the connection is totally different. The women had the capability to do that for several reasons. In the 1950s, there was something practiced called eugenics. Genocide, gentrification, eugenics. Okay? It's still practiced, but in the 1950s and 60s, it was right in your face. Perfect example, a case named Elaine Riddick, R-I-D-D-I-C-K. Elaine Riddick. There's a film documentary called The Ma'afa 21.
You're the second person that told me about it.
Elaine Riddick is alive and living and calling it out. She was 13 years old, raped, and had a child. But before she had the child, her grandmother went to the state because she was getting subsidies at the time. The grandmother went to the state in order to get Elaine on at 13. She was raped. The state told her grandmother, okay, we'll put you on and give you food or whatever if you sign this document. Okay? Grandmother, of course, was not very literate, and she signed the document. And of course, the document stated that the state had the right to sterilize Elaine. And this was one of many cases, but this is one we know about because she's still alive, and we can tell you. So the bottom line is, especially in the South, people, women who were on so-called assistance were duped, were coerced, and even manipulated to sign their reproductive rights away in order to get some food or some assistance. So that's why as women, we charge genocide. And this was after 1948. Now note, the claims to reparations and other things is complicated because the argument is, well, all this happened long ago. Signing of those documents in order to get food happened after 1948. After 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights existed in the UN. All the countries sign. So, point being, we got it. Because as of 1948, there was an obligation and a bond with other nations. This happened in the 1950s and the 1960s. Blatantly. And in case you didn't know, and then I'm going to let you continue, in case you didn't know, it's now in the form of Planned Parenthood. The same person who advocated for eugenics openly, because there was a eugenics society in America, in many cities. They were out in the open, and they were wealthy, and they practiced what they preached. Margaret Sanger was her name. Don't, like I said, don't look it up. Look it up. Look up Margaret Sanger.
Did Susan B. Anthony have something to do with this?
I don't know. My research was really primarily dealing with Margaret Sanger.
And is it called Maafa 21?
Well, the Maafa 21 is a documentary film, right? It's MAAFA 21. And it goes in depth with history about how it all got started in the early 1900s, how became part of the government practices, and how it transformed into presently today what's known as Planned Parenthood. Because they had to legitimize stuff and cover it up and make it look better and so forth. Okay? But the whole idea, and it says very clearly, was to make certain that feeble-minded people and people of low intelligence and people who, whatever, could not reproduce. This stuff is in writing. Clearly. I mean, it's not ambiguous. It's not like, I thought it said this. No. It's crystal clear. So, these are some of the weapons you will hear us talk more about. And again, it positions our women in particular, because we're the only women in North America that can claim genocide today, meaning after 1948. We're the only ones. So we're unique, extremely.
I have a question for you, Sue. Yes. Could you explain to the group here as well as myself, I have heard it said, and I don't know how to necessarily research it, is that the problem with us claiming reparations is that we're basically going in under the label of Black and African American and not really of a nation of people to make that claim.
Well, technically, yes. However, as you know, in any law, you have extenuating circumstances. Okay? And when you can prove that and provide the ample data and other things that go with that, you then have a recourse or a course of action that can be applied. Okay? So there are segments of international law that is not discussed, but it's there. Next month, we'll hold special sessions on what is known as a plebiscite. These are words I'm sure many of you or most of you have not heard. But this allows us to, shall we say, at least begin to discuss what do we want to call ourselves. I mean, nobody really, I mean, how did you come up with being called whatever you call? You didn't make that decision. That was given to us, all across the board. We never had that dialogue. You see, but a people who are self-determined, again, these are words that you have to become more familiar with because they are binding words in international courts. A people who are self-determined, you do have rights, we do have rights, but you have to exercise those rights. And the first step is we have to agree on some things. Even if it's just temporarily, we need to agree on some things. And then after we do that, we can assert our position. We can always change it, you know, okay, well, we want to amend this or whatever, but we have to start agreeing on some things. Then it allows us to go into other courts. And as you know, land is it. So I'm moving ahead of myself because there's some other fundamentals I want to give you at another time. But we have got these people where we want them in terms of this land. If we understand what we need to do, first of all, in suing them is very real on many counts, but here's the simplest one: the lack of transparency.
About predatory lending.
But see,
Discrimination.
yes, but
Get them on it.
that stuff gets real, back and forth. Here's a simpler way, because see, we don't want to get caught up in court forever and a day. We want to bring them to the table and say, look,
What the situation
right,
was.
this is it,
And had
right.
documents and
And so
evidence.
one of the things is the lack of transparency. What is that? Are any of you, you're block captain? Any of you block captain? You're in an organization. You do work in the community? Sure. Okay, did anyone come to you and say, okay, we know you're in the community, you're working, there's a lot of properties around here and we're going to do something with them at some point, but you're in the community and we know you're helping the community, you're working. So let's talk to you about your group, your organization or whatever, utilizing some of these properties to provide services in the community. Did anybody ever come to you and say that?
No.
So you understand what that means?
You gotta take it yourself.
No, but yes, but what that means was we were never given the opportunity to get
They're
these
not gonna do
properties.
that.
How do you give all the corporations and developers all these properties and you never
Talk to
came
the
to
people that's been
the
there
people
50,
who
60
live
years.
there?
Something wrong with that.
You understand? Big problem. They're
Yeah.
trying to deny big problem. Big problem.
And how come everybody around us is making out economically, but we've been there all this time and we can't make out economically? You know what I'm saying? And we go to them, we can go to them. I can go to them and say, oh, we interested in their property. You think, like me and Monica, we was down there and the other people we've been there on this land, they wouldn't give us that land, but they're gonna sell it to the
There are
developer.
steps. And then again, I'm going to let you walk into there are steps. The next session that we have, we're going to start preparing report cards. Report cards. So that the elected officials, oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Because see, we educate the people, and at the same time, start lining this stuff up.
That's
Y'all
right.
feeling me. I know y'all know what I'm getting ready to tell you.
I have a point.
Okay.
I spoke to Curtis Jones already. I think you can get them on the fact that they spent $55 million on that water show
All
plaza
that.
That was part
and Dilworth Park for a cafe and an incomplete project, and you still haven't addressed the educational school
Right.
system. You closed down 30 schools, and I said this directly to Curtis Jones' face. You don't have enough houses for the citizens and the residents who are currently in transit. You may not be 100% homeless, but some people are just in some transitioning situation.
Right.
Then you still need to build some affordable housing
Right.
for those individuals.
Different budgets.
So you have $55 million, not
Budget.
$1,000, $55 million for that Dilworth Park. And it came out of his own mouth. They're giving $35 to $45 million for Love Park.
Right.
So they're gonna build some more cafes, I guess, for the
Rich people.
rich people and the tourists.
When we
And
go-
that's another
When we
argument.
go into this deeper, you're gonna see how all of that is based on what they call it. Public use of land
And public use of land.
with the intention of creating greater revenue. These are laws on the books, and they've been fought, and people have lost based on the fact that the government and local government could go into court and say, look, here's our projection for this. This is going to bring zillions of dollars, right?
And the-
What is your projection? See, because that's what they're going to say. Okay, they're saying this is going to bring a lot of money to the city. What are you talking about? Now, guess which way that's going? All right? This is how that's operating, sister. You're right. Morally and ethically, you're right. But we talking about dollars and cents.
Right, right there.
That's why we created something called. Right.
cents.
That's why we created something called In the Black. which I'll tell you about another time. Why? Because in finance, you're what?
Free of
You're
debt.
either in the black or in the red.
You're either in the black or you're in the red. Okay, you understand what I'm saying to you? We research this stuff thoroughly. In finance, in terms of from an operational standpoint, the bottom line is you're either in the black or in the red. If you're in the red, you got a problem. Redneck, you got a problem. If you're in the black, you're good. You're prospering. Y'all understand what I'm saying to y'all? See, this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about.
But everyone should be in an uproar about that project.
Absolutely.
And it's still incomplete. So that means that they have to dedicate work, allocate resources, money, funds to complete that one project. And that's not including the Love Park project.
But wait a minute, how about the skating park? The skate
Oh, the ice skating rink.
No, not the ice skating rink, that for, what do you call it, skateboarders, what was it, 4.7 or something acres, and then how many millions of dollars that went into that?
See, remember, you
But
have
yet you close the schools,
corporations.
but at the same time, that's really a benefit, and y'all don't even know, you think it's a minor, but you shouldn't have your children in here, in my opinion.
But remember, there are corporations that contribute to the stuff. So even though some is budgeted, allocated through the budget, remember you got corporations contributing. Why? Because they're dealing with development. See, all this stuff is really very in sync with stuff. One of the ways that we have to combat it on the surface is run our own people. Run our own people.
Make them members.
Right.
Like
Run
saying
our
you
own
DJ,
people.
You can't get in unless you're what?
Right. I mean, and that's just one. See, we have to deal with this on different levels in different ways. I'm not advocating this electoral process. Trust me, I'm not advocating that. I'm a realist, though. If my son was to get locked up, I need to be able to get on the phone and say, yo, where you at? You understand? This is real. That's real. For you to be able to get on the phone, real like that, and talk to somebody that you know. And you won't have to wait 48, 72 hours or whatever to find out what you need to know. That's real. So we can talk all we want to about, you know, I'm not down on none of that either. But what I do know is we need information, and we need people in there that can get it for us and give it to us. But we need to hold them accountable. So that's a whole nother thing that we'll talk about at another time. Going back to your black captains, we have a plan in the black. For example, who said the city of Philadelphia is the only one that can have black captains? Hello? Think about it. Why can't we have our own block captains? Or what we call block generals. Y'all get what I'm saying?
Okay, but how I become a block?
Oh, I'll tell you about it later. Okay? See, all these are organized
I'm the general
strategies.
down
And this
there.
is why I said to everyone, there's different modalities to service different areas.
That's deep.
To have our own block generals.
Y'all know why
Who know
generals
everything
is
that's
so
going.
deep?
Absolutely.
Because it's military.
Absolutely.
When you read the Constitution. It
Absolutely.
says they cannot deny you any civil or military right.
Absolutely. See, it's all in sync with the common cause.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes,
It's
yes.
not threatening.
You just gotta know how to
You just
utilize
gotta
it.
know how to function.
And how to, what are the proper forms? Send it to the proper agencies. Look, we want these properties, that school, no one should be able to purchase that school. And we can reutilize it or repurpose it for community resources coming together, similar as a church or.
And see, once we
Community
establish ourselves as a society, okay, see, all these are key words that I'm stressing to you. I'm saying to you, we establish ourselves as a society.
Most definitely.
Because as such,
Right, I mean, even if you look in the phone book, you'll see all those nice
It's
lists
a
of all these
society.
societies. Matter of fact, it's a nice Jewish society right down there, what is that, Paper Market? I was passing in the other day, and I'm like, wow, I need to go in here and check it out.
Yes. See, and it
And I'm
gives
not
you
saying that's
other
And it gives you
advantages.
reasons. And it's just like the Jewish people call it the Jewish, but I went inside the museum.
Yeah, I'm going
And back in the day, it's called the Mutual Aid Society.
But wait, I got one for you.
So they didn't call it just a church or just a synagogue where everybody, okay, you can donate some old clothes. No, you a big wig at one of these corporate, well, you know the big wig personally, you can carve some stuff out to really help your own people if you're about that.
Right. But we had to establish it as such, as a society.
It's a mutual aid
Because
society.
then we're dealing with civilized operations. And here's your first clue as to what type of leverage that it brings. The Society of Friends. Who are that? Sounds like the person that's on top of City Hall.
That's what it sounds
The
like.
Society of Friends. The Quakers. That's what they're
Quakers.
called, the Society of Friends.
Because the treaty of peace and friendship, so they have to put that
Really?
word free.
Okay? So while
They know
folks-
your enemies.
So what we're saying is, again, we function on many levels, as organizations, as groups,
Society.
as whatever, but we're not talking about societies. Okay? This is in the 21st century. You got to up this, you got to up the ante.
Right.
So again, you all please continue. We're going to go to another presentation before we close out. Before I do, are there any additional questions?
Just a quick one, real quick one. I believe there are a lot of laws on the books for the local that prohibit a lot of this work that's going on anyway. And if we push the issue, City Hall is in violation of it quite a bit. And I think a couple of years ago in Illinois, there was a lawsuit against the state government because they violate the Constitution concerning responsibility for the school system there.
Right.
So it's like laws on, like everybody's been saying, there's laws on different levels. But I think we need to kind of like look at a lot of the laws on each of these levels.
Absolutely.
I do not believe that we're allowed to have people rooming houses. I think they're actually illegal. I think a lot of this campus rental stuff is illegal. A lot of the people that are doing it don't have the paperwork that they're supposed to have.
Right.
And
Right.
you cause a lot of problems. You cause monkey wrench right there.
But we're fighting against people who made the laws.
Well,
We're
yeah.
fighting against people who not going to change the laws. We even got to get in bed all our lives before they let black people play basketball. We had to get in the game and start playing basketball and end up playing it better than them. Football, we got in the game and end up playing it better than them. Baseball, we got in the game and end up playing it better than them. Hockey, anything we got in it, we got in the game their way and ended up doing it better than them. I lost my job a few years ago and had to go down to the EEOC.
I know about them.
I went down to the EEOC. How do you explain to a white person how it feels to be black? There's nothing you can do. That's like what y'all saying. Y'all go down here, y'all gonna fight with these people. How are y'all gonna fight with people that never gonna understand where you come from? They don't want to understand, they're not trying to understand, and they got all the money to keep them from understanding.
Right.
The only way that I see to do something with people is to get in the bed with them and do the same thing and end up better than they are. We got to do this trust thing. That's why I concentrate, that's why I study so hard. Get this trust thing, buy my own property, put my people in the property. Buy more property, put my people in the property. That's what we got to concentrate on. Because when you fight against somebody, we'll spend the rest of our lives, the rest of our naturally born lives, fighting against something with so much money in front of us that we can't even get to the court. You understand? So you got to maneuver a different way around it. I would love to go out there and fight. That's my thing. But it's gonna take too long of a fight. It's too long of a fight. I'm gonna be an old man, my kids gonna be old people before we even get close to the fight.
I understand what you're saying, but I'll just say this. I've been through the EO and a lot of those kind of situations. The one thing these people hate is a lot of paperwork. And sometimes they'll just move to the side and move out your way a little bit because it becomes too burdensome and they don't want to get caught up in that. Now, I do agree there's like certain things like trust, that's a beautiful thing, and once you put that in operation, that's going to solve a big portion of the problem. But in the meantime, we can cause a lot of problems because the laws, we're not operating in knowledge of what they're going by. And they take advantage of the fact that we're not aware. Remember when vending was real popular here back in the 80s? People making good money. Say that again? When vending was real, you walk downtown and the subway smelled good because all the incense was burning, right? They changed the law and segregated all that. All right. A couple weeks ago, we were out at an event in West Philly, and there's a sister named, I don't remember her last name, she's in the state legislature, Vanessa. Right. So we need to kind of like work with some of those folks at the same time. In other words, if you were doing some kind of an operation, you would not necessarily be visibly going in one direction. You may have a few things working in different areas, and even with what's a flanking maneuver, etc. But I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that are on the books now that we can begin to look at that may be effective in at least causing some problems.
I understand what you're saying, but when we fighting, we hand our papers to who? The average time you hand your papers that you won't fight, that you want to send to court, what color is the person you handing your papers to? So that tell you how far your papers are going to go.
Stop. See, yes and no, meaning this. All right. If you're a plumber, you going to try to do what the electrician do?
No.
Absolutely not. If you're a doctor, are you going to try to do what the lawyer does?
No.
Absolutely not. So here's the reality from a holistic perspective. Okay? We have to function on different levels. We have to use different maneuvers. When you deal with warfare, and I know you say you're not a fighter or whatever, I'm saying we wouldn't be where we are today in terms of whatever advantages if some folk didn't get out here and fight. That's number one, and we must never forget that. You see, so while we can sit back and proceed in some other kinds of ways, and we should, everybody shouldn't be doing that. So what we're suggesting and saying is this: we all have roles. Let us honor and respect our ancestors, and those that have this role, this role, this role, hey, let's support that. Let's not try to make everything this.
Cut and dry. That's true.
That makes no sense, because then the enemy really know how to get you. And let me give you a perfect example. Give me Wall Street. My colleague researched close to 100 towns from the 1800s up. These people owned their property.
Black Wall Street.
That was just one. There were many. After so-called emancipation, people was like, okay, we gotta have our own.
Because we could build everything. We had all the jobs.
Here's the point. Did they not burn them out?
That's what I'm saying.
So, but this is what I'm saying. So even if you get all of that, if we don't understand by now the necessity of allies in this day and age, and this is why we're saying it has to be holistic. Because if you don't have a pressure coming from somewhere else, if we locked up in here, and we don't have nobody else talking about getting our back, we got a problem. We had a bomb drop right here in good old Philly in '85.
Yes.
65 homes were destroyed. So you think if we do A, B, and C, get property, do it, and I'm not saying don't, I'm just saying we gotta deal with the whole gambit.
I understand. I do. But the home that was destroyed, what people living in now? You know what? I rode down these blocks. I'm from Philadelphia. I'm from South Philly.
Too.
I rode down up and down these blocks all my life. I used to hang up and down North Philly, South Philly, West Philly. They ain't never put new pipes in these streets. What? We don't need new pipes. You see, take a look outside. Walk outside. Take a look what I'm saying. I've been living the neighborhood that I left Philly from. I left South Philly. You go there now and look at the neighborhood. My wife couldn't believe it. She said, "Why all these people in the park?" I said, "Because a certain kind of people moved into town. You know, it ain't because of us. I'm not saying anything bad about black. I'm black. I love us, but we got to concentrate our thoughts in a different direction. I know we are fighting people. All black people are fighting people because we've been doing it all our lives. But where have it gotten us? To stand up and fight hand to hand, we got to maneuver our way around.
And that's what we're talking about. And I have to say that because this session, these sessions that we're doing, and there's many other sessions, as you surely have heard.
Sure.
But there's a focus here that will not be deterred. All right? Now, with that said, that doesn't mean that we're not open for other suggestions, views,
And I'm not here to deter anybody.
Right.
I'm just
I
just giving my
Got
personal
you.
opinions. That's it.
And we appreciate that, brother. We're saying to you, we have a strategy.
Right, right.
Now, it's open to whomever wants to be involved in that.
Okay.
Everything is not for everybody. You see? So we welcome, whatever. But at the same time, it took a long time to work some of this stuff out.
Yes, yes.
You see, and yes, we've made mistakes or we haven't progressed the way we should. There's no question. But even in those evaluations, we have a better idea of how to proceed.
Excuse me, sister. I just wanted to speak before she got round up again. Yeah, I just wanted to share something that is sort of the bright side of what everyone is saying. We got funding, and I tell everybody I was inspired by Empress Fali. I had to sell all my properties. I was living in a property with no electric, no heat, and I started coming to her meetings about gentrification. And I'm a realtor, so in Kensington, we got a building for $5,000. I was able to negotiate with 2 banks to get rid of $40,000 worth of debt. They let it go. So now we're working on that property. We only got about $6,000 left now, but we got the door, we got 4 windows, we put the window sills on, okay, and I have pictures on my Facebook. I went to Councilwoman Maria Quinones Sanchez. Now, mind you, I had been fighting with Daryl Clark, where we had, Denise had talked about, we had set up a flea market. Every time you call Daryl Clark's office, no, can't help you, that's crazy, blah, 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 you don't want to help you. I called up Maria Quinones Sanchez up in Kensington. I said, you got a lot here. Half of the houses on the block where we bought the house for $5,000 are abandoned. And so I said, there's an empty lot, and could we have that as a parking lot for the block? Because everybody gets tickets, it's a small street. We put our car up, the wheel up on the edge of the street, everybody gets a ticket. So, and then the little drug dealers, the boys is out there smoking crack, sitting on the edge of people's cars, okay? People going to the bathroom between the cars. So I asked, this was my rationale, can we have those lots for a parking lot? She said yes. So then I showed her pictures of the alleyways where we got old construction debris. These were houses that my association originally had, but were going up for foreclosure. So I knew the history of all the debris in the alleyway. We got 4-story tall alley trees, there's at least 10 of them. And I said, if I were able to gather together men, because you can't have kids, you can't just have the neighborhood help you, because it's needles, our block gonna have so many dead bodies. We don't know what's back there. But I said, if we could calculate the economics of cleaning the alley, I said, could we trade that dollar amount for properties on the block? She said yes. Within a week of me meeting with her, they sent out a volunteer organization called Array of Hope, Raymond Gant. They cleaned them lots. All the troublemakers on the block, he gave them a broom. This was just the other day. We cleaned the whole block. And, so there are council people. Basically, we got to think outside the box. I said, let's do this, proposed it. She said, yeah.
And let me add, now see, the method that Sister Monica uses, I wouldn't use it. However, will I support that? Absolutely, in every way possible. Whatever she needs me to do. Would I do that? Absolutely not. See, cooperation is what we're talking about. We all have ideas and things that we know how to do. Okay, fine. Let's back each other up. That's all we're saying. We have to support one another. Because these other people are supporting themselves all across the board. So I don't have a problem with what this sister's talking about, principally speaking. I have no problem with it. If that's what she wants to do and it's going to help and move some things, hey, what can I do? You see, that's what we're talking about in building our society. Lastly, maybe, the reason why we're saying society, because we know that our communities have been dismantled. Okay, I grew up down the street, 19th and North. My brother was from 21st and North. Okay, so I know this neighborhood. We didn't move to West Philly and other places, but I know Philly. I know North Philly. Okay, I used to sit in this yard right here. I was 5 years old. All right, so I'm saying that to say, yes, we've seen what these people have done. And as a student coming into the movement, I know where the bodies are buried. I know what people have done here to sell us out. Now, I could walk away like many have, but I can't. Because there's some blood, sweat, and tears that was dealt with in this city. The little bit of progress that did happen, it's because of some people that some sacrifices. I'm not going to forget that. But that doesn't mean I'll be stuck there. We're going to do more collaborative things. And again, going back to the fact of having allies. What was different then to now is the fact that we understand the international dynamic. For us to be organized, we can get our own investors. See, if you're not talking about millions of dollars, for real, you ain't talking. I've been to Benin. I've been to other countries to build, so that when I'm ready, I can say, look, there's a building over here. Let me show you what we could do with this. This takes time to build. This brother here, he's involved with an organization that deals with international things. So my point being, and how do we know this works? You ever hear of Sada Shakur? She's not in prison, not here. She ain't in prison nowhere. My point being, you have to have allies. So that when something goes down here, you got somebody over somewhere else saying, oh, no. People here talk about Palestine. Who would rally to our cause?
Right at 15th Street. They're
I'm
protesting
saying, who would rally for our cause? But again, we are not organized and not representing ourselves in a way where people will respect us. Once we do that, we can get the ears and the eyes of other people, especially people of color. Venezuela, for example. Cuba has just sent how many medical doctors over to help fight Ebola? I'm telling you, we have allies if we're clear on who we are and what we must do. And without allies, we're talking about hanging ourselves in all that we do, because these people are not going to let you do anything at a certain point. They will kill you. You know this. If you don't, then you don't understand what's going on. So don't think you're going to jump out here and do A, B, and C, and it just be, hunky-dory. They don't play that. But when you have allies, it at least makes the game a little bit different, a little more complicated, a little more interesting. When they think somebody else is watching. So if we're progressive, if we're moving forward, other people will respect us.
Are you saying that we should make alliances with Cuba's and Cuba? By writing to them, by not writing to them, how should we tell them?
What we do first is organize ourselves. We already have allies with them. But it won't matter if we're not organized and on the same page. That's why we're going to hold plebiscites, free plebiscites, so that people understand what that is and how we can be recognized as an entity coming from a people who have been enslaved, etc. We have to say that. We know that some of our people will already hear this without question. But at the same time, we have to still say we're still coming together to speak. Once we do that, other peoples will respect that. Because again, most groups of peoples want to be free, or at least have some concept of that. So, what are we saying or doing that represents that, realistically? What actions are we doing?
Going after our own land.
Well, again, plebiscite helps to set that up. You have to be able to do the formulas. Law deals with remedies. Remedies. What does that mean? Okay, right. So we have to learn to apply the proper formulas to achieve the various levels of what we're talking about. And it's all connected. It's all connected. So we're not talking about separating from anything that anyone's saying or suggesting or doing. It's all connected. You have an arm or arms, you got a head, you got legs, it's still one body. They do different things. I mean, when do we get that? I don't want my feet to do what my hands do. Don't make any sense.